Hey everybody, welcome to JMO Often's Introduction Podcast. I'm Gary Moore.
And I'm Diane Moore.
And we're going to be talking to you about what is upcoming with our brand new podcast for the next year. So let's get started, and speaking of starting, let's talk about how JMO Often itself got started.
It got started because you, Gary, like to talk, and you like to talk about stories and share stories. And I said one time, hey, why don't you start a podcast, not a podcast, why don't you start a blog and write down all your stories so that I don't have to hear them over and over and over again.
But she still does.
I do hear them over and over again.
But why are we starting the podcast? But we'll get to that. Yeah, so I like to talk. There's no secret there. Anybody who knows me knows that I like to talk. And
if you know him really well, you've heard the stories over and over and over again too. Probably.
And you can feel free to stop me because I have no idea who I've told what stories to. Well, what you're going to see on the podcast, let's talk about that for a second. We started to talk about the podcast because we realized that there are certain things that are on the website that we wanted to enhance. We wanted to make them more, bring them out a little bit more and talk about them because there are things in some of those stories that just you don't share in the written word, if you will.
No. And they are pretty funny stories. We've had some pretty unique adventures and scenarios, and
yeah, like when we did the Tuscan wine tasting and dinner.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
That was
for me.
It was pretty interesting to tell you the truth because it required a bit of faith. We booked it, and we'll tell you about that later. But it wasn't exactly as we had anticipated that type of an event in previous times that we had done it. Then we'll talk about the knife trilogy. We have successfully purchased knives in other countries and brought them back. But the problem with that is you can't just bring back a knife from another country.
Or travel
on
in
general.
Train, knives, especially in today's world.
So that's category number one, if you will. Then we'll have category number two, which is podcast-only stories. These are stories that will probably never make it onto the website itself. Things like what happens when your wife gets stopped by a sheriff's deputy and doesn't have her license, and then decides to argue with the sheriff. So that'll be kind of fun. It took her a few years to get over that. We'll also be talking about accidental findings. This is a term that we created. There are times that we literally will find stuff by accident, and we want to share with you how to do that. Because there are ways that you're going to find things by accident and never realize that they were, whatever it was, we didn't know that existed even. So we'll talk about how we do that, and we'll share that as a secret for everybody to use for themselves when you're out and about. The third category is what's called the American Wine Journey. It'll be a collaboration between 1723 Vineyards and JMO Often. We will be live on location at 1723 Vineyards for each of the series, for each of the podcasts that we do there. We're going to take it on the road, and we're going to go into the barrel room of 1723 Vineyards and share with you how wine began in the United States and how it progressed, and in particular, what happened with wine in this area with regard to how it grew so fast in the more recent years.
And that will be through Ben.
Yes, that will be Ben Cody and myself will be sharing live at the Barrel Room. Now, this is probably going to be one of the few times we'll go live here, only because most of our podcasts don't require, a video of any sort. They'll be very easy to listen to. You can, we'll just be talking back and forth with regard to how we interact. And so we're not going to be doing live podcasts all the time. We're not going to be doing video podcasts all the time. Most of it will be pre-recorded and then uploaded into places like YouTube, the YouTube channel that Journey More Often has. They'll be uploaded onto Spotify and probably Apple as well. Once all that gets figured out. One of the crazy parts about this is there's so much technology involved. What you see here is just, a couple of microphones, but what you don't really see is that we actually have 2 video cameras going on right now. We have a sound system down below. We have the recording. This is recording specifically just the audio, and it keeps everything. It's a mixing board. So there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot for me. I'm very much up on technology, but this has been challenging for me to make this happen.
But it's like eating candy for you.
It is like eating candy.
You just
it's technology porn.
When the podcast was thought about, it was like I could see your eyes light up.
Yeah.
It was like you were like on board and ready to buy all this stuff and move because you just love to buy this type of sound.
And so I've figured out the baseline of the technology. So we'll be doing all that uploading and whatnot at a later date. The first full episode will be on April 9th at the winery. So 1723 Winery at 2:30 in the afternoon. Ben and I will initiate the American Wine Journey podcast series. You can show up, and at the end we'll probably be taking questions and talking to people so that it'll be more interactive after we're done the podcast itself. We'll be doing an introduction to the American Wine Journey so that we can set up the equipment there, figure out how it works on site, and we won't have to worry about going live and kind of worried about how the setup sounds in the barrel room itself, because we will be bringing again the speaker so that people can hear, because these headphones are what's going into this system and being recorded. The speaker will allow people to hear our voices out in the audience, if you will. Right now, we could, if we turn that speaker on, you just hear our lips moving, but it'd still be recording. So we're gonna be doing our introduction to the American Wine Journey next week at 2:30, and then the first episode will be 2 weeks from now at 2:30. And what we'll do is we'll print all the different dates that we're going to have. We've got them pre-selected. We're working them through the process. As you might imagine, it's not easy because we're busy. Ben and Sarah at 1723 Vineyards are busy. So, trying to mesh our schedules. So don't expect the American Wine Journey to be like every second Saturday, because there's so much going on either at 1723 Vineyards or with us. We've got a lot of trips planned in the upcoming future. So we'll be adding to the blog itself, and that'll give us more to talk about in the podcast.
And we're hoping to go live at times when we are on our trips. So
exactly,
this will be an experience for sure. And
we're going to drag you with us. We're going to drag you with us. So it'll be kind of fun that way, because we might show you the mountains of Switzerland or
the beaches of Hawaii.
The beaches of Hawaii, exactly. So we have a mobile system that we can go with and share with everybody on the internet. With that, what else do we want to talk about?
Just look forward to maybe some news stories that we will be doing in the upcoming year, sharing both on our blog and on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we will be sharing some of, like Gary said earlier, we'll be sharing some of our older stories that probably would be funnier told in actual words.
You get a lot more of the flavor, right?
Yeah.
and
then hopefully we can get a couple of our kids in here on one particular story.
Yeah, so we have that Halfpenny Bridge story that was in Ireland that we've told a number of times, but we've never written it up and probably won't. Along with that, we're going to also podcast about what happens when you've had a couple of glasses of wine and then decide to book overseas flights.
Oh yeah, that was a funny story.
Not
at the time, but it was funny.
Yeah, we're talking about overseas flights for 8 different people and several different schedules, so that each one had to mesh with the other one. And yeah, we're going to be talking about what happens when they don't actually mesh. Yeah. Other than that, I think we're good to go. Thanks for joining us.
We look forward to seeing you guys in the future, and maybe talking to you too.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us for this introductory podcast with Journey More Often. You can find us at journeymoreoften.today. We have over 200 stories on the blog. So they range in relative, the storytelling ranges from how to pack wine for your journey home. We just loaded the Red Rose Inn for those of you who are local. And that's getting a lot of hits yesterday and today. So until then,
journey more often.
Enjoy life. Journey more often. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.